we should focus our Canada Day committee on Santa Claus parade.
Might be an idea.
TPCRC does the,
I sent the message to Desiree.
left.
That way it would give them more of an impetus to meet rather than put a meeting right now for Canada Day, Chief County brushing it off.
Not urgent enough.
Are you? Camera probably pick it up. I'm hungry.
All right, it's 6 o'clock. Good evening, everybody. Welcome to the October 28th, 2024 Town of the Pod Council meeting. First off, I'd like to just acknowledge that our community is, and we're gathered here tonight on Treaty 5 territories, and that's the ancestral lands of our neighbors, the Openstreet Nation, as well as many other Indigenous people, and is also the homeland of the Red River Métis. So with that, we'll call the meeting to order. Somebody should have a, what's that? Oh, yes, sorry, yeah, and I missed the attendance. Councillor Forrester did send his regrets tonight.
Any additions?
I would ask for one clarification on the in-camera portion. If we need to have the recycling in camera, does it meet the requirements for that?
I don't think so.
We believe because it was personnel potentially related that it wouldn't be.
We can have both sessions.
Separate.
Yes, that's it.
Personnel section, we can keep in camera.
Okay.
The rest is already out in the public, some of their information, so.
Okay.
Moved by myself, second by Councillor Allen, that the agenda resolved, that the agenda be adopted as amended.
All right, any further questions with that? Seeing none, call the question. All in favor? Oppose? Carried. So we're at 6 tonight. So 6 in favor. Okay, for the minutes.
Moved by myself, second by Councillor Allen, resolved that the minutes of the regular council meeting of October 15th, 2024 be hereby approved, all statutory operations that will be complied with. Is attached.
Any questions, comments on the minutes? Seeing none, call the question. All in favor? Opposed? None, carried. Thank you. We are sitting now at recognition period. Anybody got anything they want to share about our great community that happened over the last few weeks? Well, I do know I attended the introduction to aviation operations graduation a couple on Friday. It was great to see that. It's a great event put on by the Manitoba Aviation Council. I think the Northern Sector Council was involved. I think the Town of the Pas was involved. Our airport professional Trevor was involved with the program. What they had is 11 students, 18 to 25. Training on northern or airport operations, so they got some good hands-on. They were from Split Lake, Island Lake, Wasagamak, Ocean, Thompson. I probably missed a few, but it was good to see that, and I also believe that we may even get some employees out of it down the road. So that's great. It was a great training program. So thanks to those guys for doing that. Any other recognition? All right, moving on to citizen period. No citizens here today unless you guys have something. Anything for the citizen period? Okay, under bylaws, 8.1, traffic bylaw.
Resolution number 2024-206, moved by myself, seconded by Councillor Hopper. Resolved that bylaw number 4650, being a bylaw of the town of La Paix to amend the regulating of traffic and parking bylaw number 2265 be read a second time.
Alrighty, this is the second reading. This is to close make the appropriate adjustments for daycare on Ross Avenue. Call the question. All in favor? Opposed? Carried. Third reading.
Resolution number 2024-207, moved by myself, seconded by Councillor Hopper. Therefore be resolved that bylaw number 4650, being a bylaw of the town of La Paix to amend the regulating of traffic and parking bylaw number 2265 be read a third time and be passed.
This is a recorded vote. So seeing any further questions? Seeing none, myself, I'm in favor. Councillor Atkinson,
Aye.
Councillor Hopper.
Aye.
Councillor Hopper or Councillor Forster is absent. Councillor Commodore,
Yes.
Councillor Manich.
Aye.
And Councillor Allen.
Aye.
And that would be 6-4, 0 against. Carried. Alrighty. Next one, 813, 7th Street East resolution.
Resolution number 2024-208, moved by myself, seconded by Councillor Hopper. Resolved that bylaw number 4651, being a bylaw of the town of La Paix to amend the regulating of traffic and parking bylaw number 2265 be read a second time.
All right, and this is a requirement due to the location of the rail, and when you leave the back lane on Bignell going south, they're restricting the turn right. So we have to pass a bylaw to not allow this. This is a recommendation coming from the rail regulators when they had their safety audit done. It's too close to the crossing. So with that, call questions. All in favor? Opposed? Carried. All right, third reading.
Resolution number 2024-209, moved by myself, seconded by Councillor Allen. Therefore be it resolved that bylaw number 4651, being a bylaw of the town of La Paix to amend the regulating of traffic and parking bylaw number 2265 be read a third time and passed. And this is also a recorded vote.
Yep. Any further question? Seeing none, I'll call the questions. I'm in favor. Councillor Atkinson,
Aye.
Councillor Hopper.
Aye.
Councillor Forster is absent. Councillor Commodore,
Yes.
Councillor Manich.
Aye.
And Councillor Allen.
Aye.
6-4, 0 against and carried. Alrighty, 8-3, firefighting, fire prevention, other hazards.
Resolution.
Oh, sorry. 821.
Okay.
What's 821? Oh, sorry, yes, 82, sorry, Councillor, traffic bylaw, Lakeview lots.
Yes.
My apologies.
That's okay. Resolution number 2024-210, moved by myself, seconded by Councillor Allen. Resolved the bylaw number 4652, being a bylaw of the town of La Paix to amend the regulating of traffic and parking bylaw number 2265 be read a second time.
Yeah, and this was another just sort of the rules to ensure that we can install stop signs and all those sorts of traffic devices within our community. So this is why this bylaw has been read. Call a question, all in favor? Opposed? Seeing none, carried. Third reading.
Resolution number 2024-211, moved by myself, seconded by Councillor Allen. Therefore be it resolved the bylaw number 4652, being a bylaw of the town of La Paix to amend the regulating of traffic and parking bylaw number 2265 be read a third time and passed. And this also is a recorded vote.
All right. Okay, seeing no questions, so I will call the question. I'm in favor. Councillor Atkinson.
Aye.
Councillor Hopper.
Aye.
Councillor Forster is absent still. Councillor Commodore.
Aye.
Councillor Manich.
Aye.
And Councillor Allen.
Aye.
6-4, 0 against and carried. There we go. Now it's done. 8-3.
Resolution number 2024-212, moved by Councillor Manage, second by Councillor Commodore. Whereas section 232(1) of the Municipal Act provides authority for the municipality to pass bylaw for municipal purposes respecting the following matters. A, the safety, health, protection, and well-being of people and the safety and protection of property. I, preventing and firefighting. Fighting fire, sorry. J, the enforcement of bylaws. O, the sale and use of firecrackers and other fireworks, and use of rifles, guns, and other firearms, and the use of bows and arrows and other devices. And whereas section 264 of the Municipal Act provides that every municipality must provide fire protection services within its boundaries to reduce the danger of fire, which may include education programs, inspections of properties, the installation of alarms, instructions on firefighting, the provisions of firefighting and equipment, and a fire protection force. And whereas the fire department should provide certain non-emergency services, and whereas the people for whom services are provided should be responsible for offsetting the costs of providing those services. And whereas if it is deemed expedient and in the public interest to establish, continue, and maintain fire prevention and emergency services standards in the town of the Paw. Therefore, be it resolved that bylaw number 4653, being a bylaw of the town of the Paw to provide firefighting, fire prevention, and related regulations of fire and other hazards, and adoption of the Manitoba Fire Code, and for establishing, continuing, and operating an emergency fire service, and to repeal bylaw number 4578, be read first time.
So again, this is the first reading of a bylaw to update our fire prevention, firefighting emergency bylaw. I guess my understanding when you read through it is to bring clarity specifically around section 7, which outlines specifically the types of services that are supplied, and also ensures that the appropriate authority and guidelines are laid out in the bylaw. So it doesn't shouldn't significantly change our last bylaws other than update it and refresh it. Questions?
I have one question. I feel this is brought to us a little bit prematurely, in the event that we had an assessment done that cost the taxpayers almost $13,000. And that was to have some discussion at a council level as well as administration level that I think would have helped us form the bylaw. I'm not against updating the bylaw. However, I feel that that document has been ignored and not taken into account by this council. And that was one of the purposes of that assessment. So I'm kind of disappointed that we haven't seen that assessment come forward and have be discussed at a council level. That would be my own comments on it.
Yeah, I guess anybody else have anything? I mean, I guess my only thoughts are I'm assuming, and our fire chief's here, I'm assuming that he incorporated some of the aspects of that into this document, because I think it's very clear when it comes to the training requirements and those items. I'm not sure if the other operational issues would impact the bylaw, but I'll leave it to council on what you would like to do.
I just want to point out that,
Yeah.
oh, sorry, one of the recommendations of that assessment, which again, we paid almost $13,000 for, the quote was, the town of the Paw should convene a working group of council and administration. And therefore those discussions should happen. That's all I'm saying, is that we should have discussed it if we're going to be spending money on assessments. The assessments are of no value if they're not.
We could
discussed
still
at
do
that.
that.
Sure, but then we're revisiting the bylaw. That's the only reason why I think it's a little premature. It should have happened
Well,
in succession to come.
from my memory, Councillor, wasn't that comment regarding the working relationship more than looking at the detail? Because I don't know nothing about firefighting, so I thought that was on the working.
It's a working group
relationship.
about recruitment, about retention,
Yeah.
about operations of how the fire department could.
Yeah, but
The
it was
working group, we were not around last.
Oh, yeah, right.
We had QIC meeting.
Which, sorry?
Quality improvement group, which I think those group will be taking care of operational.
Yeah, that's right too.
Council related reports that has to do with fire department. We created one, I actually once input from council. We have separate one for safety, separate one.
That's right too, I forgot
So
about that.
that's the purpose of that, because we think that subgroup of the council will be able to help each of these units.
Yeah, and that's again why I think it's just a little premature. It's not that it's not needed, it's just that it's a little premature that those discussions should have occurred to help develop a bylaw that may last us for years rather than, hey, let's go revisit it now. It just, again. I just-
Like, acknowledge the assessment is very important.
Yeah.
And the way I look at those assessments is going to be a continuous process.
Okay,
And
so,
the continuous improvement.
Counselor, anybody else have anything
I
to
was just gonna say it has to be reviewed further. If anything comes out of that, that indicates, bringing the bylaw back for revision, that's easy to do.
Yeah.
But it should be reviewed and apparently most of it has, but again, we haven't gone through it ourselves.
Okay, any other comments? Seeing none, call the question, all in favor? Or against,
No, I'm gonna abstain just for the reasons I explained.
abstain, one?
Yeah.
Against,
No,
four, oh, yeah, four?
Yeah.
Okay, sorry, I'm sorry, I never seen your hand. And carried.
Just a point, I'm not clear, if you move something, can you abstain? I used to.
Yeah, because it's a formality to be the mover. I don't get to pick which ones I get to say. I actually did try to pass it off to Margaret because it was so long to read.
Yeah. I'm not gonna worry about that. It's gonna come back at the next meeting. I guess what I suggest that council do, if you haven't looked at that report, look at that report. And if there's important things that you think are missing, let's bring it up at that time, because there's always time for us to make a shift. And also, let's, get that, quality improvement committee going, so that if there's other things when it comes, as Councilor Manage mentioned, around recruitment and retention and such, that we, got an action plan to deal with that.
Mayor Murphy, just to, Councillor Hopper's point, yes, you can abstain. I would read financials quite frequently, and I would, abstain, yes.
Good, okay, good discussions, good comments.
Can I ask that that report be recirculated then to council? Because I think it was like a year ago that we first.
No, it was forwarded on to us about a month ago.
Yeah.
Was it?
Maybe
Maybe
6
I'm
weeks
thinking-
ago, it was passed on to us again to review. We were just to discuss it at council, but it never hit the agenda.
You want to resend it?
Yes, resend it to everybody again, as a, at the top.
Okay.
It's at the top of their mailbox, and then, like I said, let's get a chance to see if there's something there. Okay, moving along here. Council meeting date changes.
Resolution number 2024-213, moved by Councilor Mann, second by Councilor Palmer. Resolved that council approve the following date changes. November 11th, 2024 to November 12th, 2024, due to Remembrance Day. November 25th, 2024 to December 2nd, 2024, due to AMM district meeting. And December 23rd, 2024 to December 16th, due to holiday season.
Thank you, Councilor. Pretty straightforward. There's no questions, call the question. All in favor? Oh, sorry.
I just have a statement. I'll be sending regrets for the November 12th meeting.
Okay.
Had a complication into it.
Okay, so, moving on, call the question, all in favor? Opposed? None carried. Oops. Alrighty, payrolls and accounts.
Still working.
Oh, steel workers, sorry, yeah, geez. I'm just, trying to race through this stuff tonight. Steel workers. 8 or 931. Somebody got that one?
Oh, right here, we went for it. Sorry. Right here?
Yep.
Moved by myself, second by Councilor Manage, resolved that the council authorizing the payment of vacation pay accruals with steelworker union employees due to underpayment in the amount of $20,594.18.
Yep, so just so people are aware, there was an error made or an error discovered in the payroll system, and there was a payment issue with our team out at the airport. Any further questions? Seeing none, call the question, all in favor? Opposed? Carried. All right. 932, payrolls and accounts.
Moved by myself, second by Councillor Mallett, to resolve that the council authorize the following accounts. Pay period number 21 in the amount of $134,616.61. Journal checks number 28894 to 28960 in the amount of $293,661.03. EFTs in the amount of $156,660.11.
Okay, any questions with the check registry? Seeing none, call the question, all in favor? Opposed? Carried.
I've never heard Duracan, or, sorry,
I could look it up for you.
yeah.
Personnel, nothing, reports of committee. Cheat sheet here. Oh, it's not even new. Museum board.
So, apparently, the meeting was the same night as the council meeting, so I wasn't there. I did read their agenda. I haven't got their minutes yet, but Karen is here today. And if there's a report coming out later, and everything that I was going to say, it is all right here in paper. We're still looking for a curator, just about have one, and we did it. We're still looking.
Tough gig. Chamber of Commerce,
No meeting since last meeting. Next one will be next Wednesday.
hey Jim, the AGM. Next Wednesday or?
No, it's not the AGM.
Oh,
Yeah,
okay.
meeting and AGM.
Wednesday, November 13th.
That'd be the 3rd, I believe it is.
Okay.
The first Wednesday of the month is what we've kind of set as a schedule now, because it was kind of all over and emails would go out. So now they've just established the first Wednesday of each month.
No, CDC, no destination marketing, Cedar Lake.
Oh, we haven't had a meeting, but I do have the monthly newsletter, and rather than reading out all of the newsletter, I'll just speak to some upcoming events. There is a cash flow canvas boot camp that'll take place on Tuesday, November 5th. That'll take place at the library annex. Tuesday, November 19th. There will also be, would you like to learn about what is involved in starting a co-op in your area? Join Community Futures via Zoom on Tuesday, November 19th and Tuesday, November 26th at 6:30 p.m. for presentation from Cooperative First. To register, please join the links below. And that's in terms of senior housing co-op information sessions. And that's that.
All right.
And we'll meet again in December.
Okay, reports. So we're at any other mayor or council reports? Anybody got anything else they want to share with the group?
Northern Regional Health AGMs tomorrow at noon through Teams.
Library, we have a meeting.
Oh, sorry. I scratched you off on purpose. I mean, by accident.
Accidentally. on
Yeah,
purpose.
actually, I was gonna wait till, that's what I was getting at.
So we did have a meeting, not last week, the week before, and a few things got addressed. So the water in the basement issue is slightly improved. I guess they did the fire hydrant. They did the fire hydrant outside the library, and that seems to address some of the issue, but there's still some water coming in there. It is still a problem. Apparently when we come in the morning, the smell was pretty bad, and one time it was so bad that they actually closed the library for the day. So I know they're still working with the town on this, working with Joe Moore, I assume Sam as well. And it is ongoing. They did note that several other issues have been addressed. There still is a few other things that they're working on, such as the rear door, but some of the stuff that they have brought forward has been rectified, so they've passed on their thanks to the town for that. Programming is now back underway now that we're out of the summer months. The attendance for a lot of those has returned to normal. They are working on the internet upgrade that they have been in contact with a contractor on for a while now. There's about 30,000 of that covered through grants, so there's probably going to be very little, if any, cost to the library itself. And they're hoping there might be even a little bit of money left over out of the grants that they can use towards other equipment, such as possibly even new computers. So when that install is getting done, they may have to shut the library down for a few days, but overall, that's going to be a very, very big positive for them. There's also a new logo forthcoming. There was a contest on that nearly a year ago. They kind of thought they had adopted something, but there's still a little bit to do on that. So they're working with the designer to get that adopted, and the union negotiations are still ongoing, and they're developing some job descriptions related to that. Next meeting is November 2nd.
Great.
I started to have a conversation with Councillor Allen a little bit earlier, and I heard over the weekend that the public phone has been taken away from patrons. And I was hoping that not at this meeting, but at the next meeting, that there could be some follow-up on hopefully reinstating it.
I can bring that up at the next meeting on November 7th.
Okay, anything else, Councilor? Anything on the KSD committee? I'm gonna save the recycling just as a discussion. That's why I skipped the update. Or you wanna do that now?
We have part that we discussed.
Okay. Nothing on KSD?
No, there's somebody new. Can't remember what their role was called. If they're like the board chair
Okay.
on Kelsey School
Oh, yeah,
Division side.
yeah.
We're just waiting for him to reach out. Yes.
Okay, I wanna talk about recycling. Oh,
You
sorry.
requested for some contacts, so I give your contacts.
Yeah.
Yes.
Just two items. We had a meeting today and for possibility of having some staff changes at the recycling center. Possibility of disruption in services may occur. I would say that we'll have a notice out probably tomorrow if that's going to occur, and what depending on how long it's going to be. We're in the process of doing some restructuring, as I mentioned, possibility of disruption in services, but the public will be made aware of what that's going to look like if it does occur. We're hoping that it doesn't have to continue the operation. One of the things at the meeting today we did talk about was the insurance on the building. We still don't have insurance on the building, and the board had asked the three parties to check with their councils on whether or not, say, the town of Bar or OCN or the RM would take that building in the event if it did close down temporarily. We need insurance on it. If it could be put under the town's umbrella.
We could do that.
Bola was going to bring that forward tonight, and she was going to talk to Laura to see if she could work her magic to get it under town's umbrella in the event that it needs to be, because right now it's an unprotected asset. And basically, if council is okay with the town bringing it under our insurance in the interim, that's kind of the direction that Bola would need tonight to take to Laura. The other issue is dealing with it. There's some personnel issues that we can discuss in Canada.
Yeah, well, the personnel issue has nothing to do with the town of the Paw other than that you're informing us.
Yeah.
I guess when I look at the board, I'm asking, are we going to, like, is it time for us maybe to reshuffle that board? When I say this, I'm just thinking aloud here is that maybe, I'm not sure if Councillor Commodore is continuing or not, but maybe myself and the deputy mayor join the recycling board and we put a fresh look in there, seems that everybody's leaving.
Well, I think before we went there, I think it would be up to the board and the council manager and council Commodore on the board to their board, we are looking at the restructuring process and how that's gonna look between the three communities and suggestions like that. Yeah, we're looking at.
Yeah, I guess the only reason why I said, sorry, Counselor, the only reason why I said it, because we have, if we gotta do business, we gotta do business now, and if not, it's gonna be a couple weeks, I'm wide open. Yeah, no, I mean, and again, it's just the thought, like, if we wanna bring a fresh look to the group and, you know, and maybe.
We're not looking for volunteers.
Yeah,
To be
so-
on board for sure.
But yeah, the only reason why I bring this up is that if there's anything that we need to do by resolution, and if we do have a reduction in, you know, other than having to call a special meeting this week, you know, let's get it out on the table now and let's deal with it.
I think, we can bring some insight in and we'll speak a little bit later
Okay,
and, from that, where we're going with it.
okay. Okay, let me get back to where I was at. Okay, there's nothing else then on that, seeing that. Any other updates from mayor and council on any other things that are going on?
Just a question on our KSD, meeting. Is there anything coming up on the agreement there? Is that hasn't finalized yet?
We just spoke to that 5 minutes ago, so we were waiting for that.
I missed that. I'm hitting.
Yeah,
That's okay. We're in the process of getting, they have somebody new
and they're regional,
and we're
They're
in the
regional?
process of getting, well,
they are,
it was to be them, but we haven't heard in a week, so maybe I'll just do that tomorrow and we'll plan for hopefully early, the first week of December.
First week of.
At
December.
the latest, like the first week of December, yes. Are we all here still?
Well, if there's nothing pressing, there's no need to meet.
Just finish it off. Well, that's the other thing, the tri-party, agreement on the recycling where that's, John and, David said they would make sure the council get on that and try to get that tidied up too. So we're going over that.
Okay, yeah, anything else to report from anybody? On anything else, if not, you can start seeing our reports there. Building inspector report. For information,
Question on that?
yeah,
Just, on the, is there parking requirements, when somebody takes a building permit, what springs to mind is for the legal aid building on Cook Street, where it's already congested. They're pretty well filled up their lot with the building. I'm wondering, is there so many parking spots allotted to them, or is that no longer a requirement?
It does exist.
Pardon?
It does exist. So depending on what the business is, what you're constructing, you have to have so many spots available for that as per our both zoning bylaw.
Yeah, so I'm just wondering what was done in that instance.
That's right.
Because sometimes, I remember there was a place uptown at one time had to get the parking from another area to say that was part of their parking.
with the bill that's going on right now?
Yeah.
Yeah, so maybe that's a question we can get from,
Yeah.
Bola can talk to the building inspector and. I don't know what they're building, to be honest with you, other than I've heard an office building, but
Legal aid or.
yeah,
Answer ask.
Just curious.
yeah, just what the parking availability is.
So anyway,
Which kind of goes on to the fact that we have parking around that primary health that is not really parking lot. That on the other side, on the north side. So I don't know if we just are okay with that, because I hear there's a few complaints of people blocking back alleys and stuff. Maybe you can shed some light on that, Sam.
Yeah, so where the barricades went up along.
Just come up here, but
good sign.
Yeah, I didn't wear my good shirt with you guys today. So where the parking barricades went up as you go sort of on the corner on First Street East by the hospital, there was a lot of parking there, so it's come up as a concern from some residents. So we've been working with Manitoba Highways. They helped us get some barricades put up there because people were actually crossing into the highway from the laneway, which was very dangerous. And in the winter, a few people got hung up and almost caused a few accidents. So some of the people that live in the area have asked us to look at putting no parking signs to stop people from parking there. So we're just sort of reviewing that right now.
what's gonna happen in the winter there?
Well, we have to make a decision before winter because There's some snow that gets piled in that area that causes further concern, so.
Yeah, but who would maintain that parking lot? If we're turning it into a parking lot, is that a town of the paw, parking lot?
Well, it's our property based on what so we got some data from crafting.
Yeah.
Kind of just sort of zone it in, but yeah, that's our property. Would technically be a boulevard or a green space, I guess you could call it, so.
Would we invest in that though? Like, would we invest in putting our guys there, trying to clean that property up too?
No, and we haven't, so I don't know if the RHA currently maintains it or whatever happens with their Bobcat as they go through the area, but we've never done any maintenance in there to create these spaces.
Yeah, that's what I'm been doing, yeah.
Because you put the barricades up, which was great, I was happy to see it, but now they just park parallel to them and the views stick out into the driveway, so it's almost worse now.
Yeah,
because
so
of
our
people
biggest
there.
concern there was the blocking of the back lane. There was a few people that took it upon themselves to just sporadically park everywhere. And it's been going on for a long time. It hasn't been something that's been on our radar.
Is there a need, Sam, to put no parking signs there and let them know?
Yeah, it is town.
And you're not supposed to park on town boulevards? Technically, it would be a boulevard.
Technically, that would be a boulevard, yeah.
So-
And it's just unfortunate the practice has gone on, I guess, for a long time, but become kind of a norm. So we're just sort of looking at.
Do
Do
you
you think
think,
it would come down to having to put up signs or just making a phone call and saying, hey, like, your place can't park here?
then the next people would park there?
You say, I never got the message.
Yeah.
You need signs out.
Yeah, and that's, yeah, I think signs
So-
are the angle we're going, and I do apologize, I meant to bring that as a issue sheet.
Does council want, so I guess just looking now, does council want Sam to do something about that or?
It's paint the back of the bullets to say no parking to save the money, what would cost $12.
Well, we were thinking like you could almost stencil, I know that like you were being facetious, but I think a nice stencil, you could
Yep.
put it right on the back of them.
And could we let
Back of
could we,
the, sorry,
Right on.
no, go ahead.
right in the back of the boulevards?
The concrete bollards, yeah.
Well, yeah.
Yeah.
Just identify it as no
No
parking.
parking, tollway enforced.
Could we also just stop into their office with a letter and say, as of this day, there's gonna be no parking there and you're gonna get ticketed?
Yeah, we could definitely,
Just to give them a heads up.
yeah.
Okay, thanks, son.
Just another question, the building permits issued, this is just 2024. Was there a permit, and probably was on the Service Canada upgrade in downtown mall? That been in last year's or this year's? They've been working there for months and months, basically it's gonna affect the assessment big time, which benefits us, I'm just wondering what was done there.
That would be, yeah, I'm not too familiar, but we'd have to speak with the building inspector to get a.
That's a good segue into my questions. That would be a part 3 building, which means we wouldn't issue that permit anyway. It would go through technical services in the province. However, yes, it would be up to us to enforce, to ensure they had permits. So it's a good question. And going through the building inspection report that was provided, I had a couple questions. The Palm Motel, did we issue a permit on that building? It just says permit, but it doesn't say if we issued one.
Yeah, so there was a bit of communication I know a little bit about this one. That came in through the office. There was some back and forth. I think the scope of work originally was a little bit different, or maybe there was a misunderstanding, we'll say, between the parties. And then once we saw kind of what was happening, that sort of was beyond the scope of a little bit of paint and a few little fixes. So I know the building inspector got in touch with them after that. So I believe a permit was issued.
So that would be another part 3 building that we don't have authority to issue a permit on. That's a part 3. That would be again by technical services of the province. So,
For the motel.
Yeah.
I think yes, Serge is having a discussion with Professor, someone in Dauphin. He's
Okay, yeah.
actually taking care of that because it discussed
that would
with
be
me
the
that
permit.
it's beyond his level of
Yeah.
scope of work and he's working with him. But initially, I think they had some discussion with him. That was why it's being reflected in.
Yeah, they did try to reach out asking the question, but I believe there was some.
Okay, that was my question, was
Yeah.
if we've issued the permit wrongfully, or if the direction was, no, this is a technical services.
Yes, I will get more information.
And I was confused over 29 to 34 Tremont. Is that the address missed out and that we're identifying apartment numbers? Or what is that permit? Because again, by possibility is another part 3 permit.
City sixplex that, that's housing.
That's what I'm thinking.
Placing the one that burnt down there.
Okay, so that again would be a part 3 permit. So I'm just making sure that we're not stepping on toes and ensuring that we're not issuing or expecting permits when they're not our responsibility.
Just on that, they say it costs per door for building something like that is about $250,000. Manitoba government is spending about $850,000 a door.
Yeah.
Money well spent, I don't know.
Okay, anything else with that report?
No.
Going on to capital report presentation, Tanvir, you wanna do the museum first or?
Muslim first.
Museum and Jackson, Tanvir's, it's the. These will be easy ones, the computer.
Fine, don't worry about it. I'll have it on here anyway. Maybe. No?
Okay,
Okay, yeah, so I just have a few things to go over regarding sort of accomplishments and future goals, so accomplishments for the past year and then goals for next year. So you can just do the next one. All right, so starting with capital projects. So the big one was the acquisition of the plans for the redesign of the interior of the museum. So that project is complete and I have submitted the grant report to ensure that we meet the requirements of the grant and we get the remainder of the funds. The next capital project was funded by Friends of Sam Waller and the Rotary Club. They provided the funds, which we've used to upgrade all the chairs at the museum, so they are now more comfortable for all of our upcoming events. They were just used this past weekend for the Winter Mystery that was held by the guest list. And we have also acquired a number of materials to improve our programming capabilities. And yeah, they're already going to pay dividends, especially for our upcoming Night at the Museum event, which is plans to show the movie Night at the Museum on our new TV. As far as strategic plan results for this year, so as I stated, the plans for the redesign of the museum have been acquired. We have improved our programming by a lot compared to last year. We ran numerous programs for kids, as well as a few more events during Culture Days than we did last year. With the addition of a full-time staff member dedicated to programming, we've seen a number of improvements on that end, obviously. Also, we've taken over Home Roots as of May, and unfortunately, the first act for this brand new season had to withdraw due to a medical emergency, but the next act is ready to go at the end of November.
Jackson, what's the Home Roots, you said?
Home Roots, it's like a local sort of, how do I explain it? They take artists and they go on tours.
Gift party.
Yeah,
Okay,
like rural tours so there's one for British Columbia, there's one for
Okay.
Alberta, there's one for Manitoba, obviously.
Good.
And so, yeah, so it's basically it's 5 or 6 sort of folk country, usually artists and singers.
okay,
But this one in November is Mick McCauley. He's an Irish folk singer and he plays accordion, so
nice.
might be interesting. We have also just recently entered into an agreement with local Tim Hortons to be the sponsor of our camps and activities for kids. And obviously they're gonna be the first one they're gonna be sponsoring is the Night at the Museum. We have brought back the newsletter and we're still working on the second installment that should go out mid-November, maybe end of November, depending on what we can cover. And that will cover basically everything that we did this past summer and spring.
That goes online?
Yeah, so it'll go online, it'll be mailed out to members, and obviously you guys will get a copy as well, paper or digital, depending on what you prefer. The unfortunate, two items on the strategic plan, our Truth and Reconciliation display never ended up materializing. We did hold our own event on National Day for Truth and Reconciliation. Next year, we're looking to realize, the display. The other, thing that has taken a hit as a result of, the departure of the curator was we had plans for these offsite displays. We were looking to do 4 this year, 4 next year, and 4 the year after. So far, we only have 2 of 4 complete. Myself and Catherine will try to complete the remaining 2 by the end of the year, but we'll have to see. Next is exhibits.
Jackson, just before you jump ahead there, so offsite displays, is there any opportunity for the museum to have a display at the airport?
Yeah, that was one of them.
That was one of
That's the one of the 2 that we do have done.
Okay, good.
So next is just a little quick review of the exhibits and programs that we had. So we had 2 exhibits from Mentor Arts Network. One from Jessie Anuska, who she also came during Culture Days and delivered a workshop, and then the other was Alana McDougall. Our other 2 exhibits were from local artists. The one during the summer was from James and Matt Dean, and it was titled Apples and Trees. The current exhibit that we have on display now is Convey by Francis Cooper, and there's still some pieces left to be sold if anybody's interested. As well with the increase in programming, just as an example, we held 6 summer camps once a week for kids. They were all full, well attended. Next year, we'll probably look at something like twice a week. And also, just as an example, during Culture Days, we held a ghost walk and a haunted movie night at the museum. That was a great success. We had about 30 to 35 people for that one. We've also had many more school groups to the museum than the previous year as well, with someone dedicated to providing tours in that. As well, to discuss our sort of social media improvements. Since the Education and Programming Officer started in her position, our impressions on Facebook have increased by 900%. And interactions have increased by 2,000%, and that's since June 3rd until now. And Instagram, we have increased by 301 and 908% respectively.
Wow.
So we're getting a lot of outreach, a lot of increased visibility for the museum. And as this is much more of a Facebook using region, I think it's we can be pretty happy with those results with what we're seeing.
What's the cost for membership?
For membership at the museum? So it's for students and seniors, it's 15, for general, it's 20, and then goes up to family admission, 40, and then patron supporting.
Off the top of your head, you know what's the membership is at right now?
It's about the same as it was last year, which I think is in the 30 to 35 range.
So membership drive would help too as well.
Yeah. And yeah, we're looking at doing things to increase sort of member interaction as well. And for the future here, just taking a look at new exhibit plans. So we have a bunch of artifacts and objects in the collection and in the storage that doesn't come out in BC, basically. So rather than constantly looking for a local artist or Manitoba Arts Network to fill that in, I was looking to have sort of a 6-month, starting in the fall, exhibit based on what we have in the collection. So if it's items of sport, we would have a whole temporary display of basically everything that we have on sports in the pod and that kind of history.
Great idea.
And basically they would rotate. So the reason something like that is it would link with the offsite displays. So for example, we have these 12 offsite displays with different themes. So like government, the airport, so aviation, sports, etc. And so each 6-month long exhibit would be sort of one of the themes of the offsite displays.
Okay.
So if we have sports and it links to the sport display. We have an aviation display, you know, links to the airport, that kind of thing. And in that way, the other two exhibits would be 3 months each, and obviously the long one would be 6 months. Truth and Reconciliation Display, already kind of talked about with the strategic plan. As far as more programming goes, just once again to touch on Tim Hortons sponsoring these activities for kids is going to be a big help for the refreshments and stuff provided. So we're looking at new and increased capabilities with what we can do for all these programs. And then finally, the collections project that we've started. Basically, it's a bit of a technical thing, but we're switching the database that tracks the artifacts. So we're switching from Past Perfect to Collective Access. Collective Access is sort of an open source software that's a bit more modern than Past Perfect, to put it like that. But the main sort of goal of switching to that is we're also joining what's called Mustoba. And so Mustoba is basically a spot where Manitoba museums can have their collections searchable by the general public. And so eventually, once we complete the switch, the goal is that members of the general public can go on Mustoba and they can search and find artifacts in the St. Waller Museum collection.
Good.
And that concludes that.
Well done.
What would a night at the museum consist of?
So the night at the museum is going to be like a activity for kids. There's also going to be a sleepover element, so people can bring their mattresses and their bed.
So kind of like the movie?
Yeah, exactly.
Cool.
So there's going to
Okay.
be refreshments. They're going to watch the movie Night at the Museum. They're going to go through the museum with the lights off with flashlights.
That's awesome.
So
People themselves.
yeah, so they can go all around and
I was a chaperone once, and we did a sleepover in the Man of Nature Museum in Winnipeg. And all you heard all night was crickets, because they have crickets in there. Oh, that's good. No, well done, Jackson. Any other comments, anybody? Thanks for all your work.
okay,
Keep up the great work.
thank you.
John?
Citizen. Okay, chaperone.
Hey, well, I survived the whole year already. And, just,
Yeah. You know, that in-camera section hasn't been done yet.
Very good news.
just for the public, as the Economic Development Officer, I work to attract, business and investment to the area. I did complete and submit an application to the Federal Rural Community Immigration Program. Also, submitted an application to the Housing Accelerator Fund for 2.7 million. The application is in review and I'm waiting to hear back if it's successful or not. Over the last year,
Jonathan, before you get away from the Housing Accelerator Fund, because a lot of people won't really understand it. So what are some of the key things that that fund is really trying to drive?
to drive housing development in the PA, as well as improving some of the processes for building applications and some incentives for developers to build housing.
And one of the other, I think there's an area in there that part of your plan is to create that housing corporation, have an external housing corporation, or was the money set aside for that, or applying for that?
Yeah, there could be some money set aside for a review on like creating a housing corp, if that's what we need. To then be able to take on some of that work to get housing built.
Because, you know, one of the challenges that we're having is that, you know, all these things help, but we really are gonna have to have a little bit of a different look at how we're doing things, so.
Yeah,
What was that total housing accelerated grant request?
2.7 million. And it's split up amongst like about 400,000 or 500,000 for each initiative
Yeah.
that we're looking at implementing if we get the funds.
Sorry, Jonathan, I just, for
It's
people that are
okay.
looking, I know the answer, but I didn't ask the question so others know that are maybe watching later.
Yeah, and then I've been meeting with the Economic Development Roundtable, and we've been having discussions on how we can implement some initiatives that were brought up through the UCN grad class. And we've been tackling some of those over the year, and there's been some improvements already with that.
And for council, I'm sure that, and if you haven't seen, there is an economic roadmap that was developed a couple of years ago that sort of outlined some of those things that we should be doing when the people came in. I don't remember who the company is that helped us develop it, but one of those was one of the goals was to create that or be a part of this roundtable, create that for the region or for the area.
Yes.
And then, that's, yeah, downtown. So, some of the changes over from the bylaws over the year with derelict buildings, properties, there have been some cleanup happening in town. We've noticed some citizens also cleaning up their properties and fixing up houses. There's been some new renovations. And that's, you can see that as well with some of the building permits that have been applied for. And then I just want to encourage the public to keep doing that. Specifically to this slide is our downtown on Edwards. We've seen some improvements in changes of business operations and renovations. So our first one, Clearwater Wellness, is in this building now that was close to Lido. We also have some renovations going on in the middle for it was the old Pine Realty, which is now Immigrant Services is renovating and moving into there. And then we are seeing some of the other buildings being renovated and will be used for office space. So I've been in touch with some of the building owners to see what's going to be happening in those spaces, or if they're looking at leasing, selling, and then just trying to line up some of those arrangements. And then there's also been discussions, there's interest in some new businesses with business owners and bringing new business and franchises to town. And some of these projects are confidential as there's negotiations going on, but as some of these projects are announced, we'll be able to let the public know when that happens.
So I guess the key is people of the public just need to realize that there's a lot of work always going on behind the scenes to try to attract and get these businesses in here, and it's not something that can be just generally talked about in the public at this time. Yeah, at this time.
And then over the last year, it's been a whole year since our EV charging station was installed. We've had 43 usages totaling 1,425.75 kilowatt hours. That's just the electricity that's being charged to the vehicles. A highlight for the year was when a YouTube blogger trucked up EVs came to town and charged up. So he was doing a YouTube going all the way to Flin Flon and Thompson, and just promoting the use of EVs, and that you can travel and there's stops along the way that you can fill up, charge up. And it has attracted travelers from Swan River and Flin Flon that drive EVs, as they're able to charge up here in the PA. And we've also seen through traffic through the PA all the way to Thompson, and then return back south. So
just on that, I may have missed it, signs say coming into town. directions to where a charger maybe?
We are looking at signage and how, like wayfinding, to that, but if you're connected on the app, a lot of people use the app.
Where it is.
And it shows up on their, navigation system, in the vehicle. It shows where all the EV charges are along the way, and then they can just click on it. It shows if it's operational, if it's a fast charger, level 2, they're provided all that information. It's both on Google Maps and then through the Flow, EV charging app. And then, there's been a big push obviously for EVs, and we could see, expansion of, EVs coming through town and just access to the north. Yeah, next slide. And then, I have been a part of, Culturama Culture Days, during the year. So as you can see, our community is becoming more diverse. And it is evident with Culture Days being a big celebration, 2 weeks long, and Culturama putting on an outstanding display of culture in our community. And I've been tracking some of these cultural groups and developing metrics for tracking cultural diversity and inclusion in the community. We do have a growing Filipino, Nigerian, Ghanaian, and East Indian population. So some of this it's influencing buying habits in town as well. There is different products that are now available in the town that we haven't seen, right? And there's some new business opportunities that will come out of having a diverse culture, population, and just having that workforce we need to keep our town going.
If anybody was watching TV last night and had the misfortune to watch what was going on at Madison Square Gardens, and you look at something like this, they can learn a lot from smaller communities such as the PA.
Especially from that one lady there standing beside the guy in the black there, dancing.
She's the best, but,
Yeah,
oh, she's.
I've been learning a lot from her.
Slide 5. And then in progress, we've been working on components this year to develop a comprehensive economic development strategy. So, and then we'll be looking at some goals for next year, as well as long-term 5 to 10 years. A marketing strategy has been developed in recent months. So we have our tourism marketing strategy, which has just been completed this week. And then we're finalizing a few of just the finishing touches on that. And then we'll be moving into a community marketing strategy. And that's really marketing our town's assets and what we have. And then we'll have a whole presentation for council once that's done up. And then Clearwater Lake development, there's been some advancements with the project. I've been working on a few of the finishing touches to get this to the finish line, as well as to get some of the phases started in 2025. And I'm currently exploring funding opportunities for that development.
Just on the Clearwater Lake planning area there, has there been any discussion rather than selling properties, leasing properties?
There has been some. I know people have contacted me about whether there'll be more either lots for sale or lease options in the area, as well as business and commercial industrial property at the airport, which would be like a lease option.
So Jonathan, will you be sitting down and sharing the same sort of package with the RM, so that you can, because there are partnership there?
Yeah. Some of these components will be, I gotta sit down with the RM so we can co-develop, some of these businesses.
Yes.
Yeah.
Good.
Jensen,
Yeah.
what about the immigration for labor markets that you mentioned sometimes ago? The immigration program?
Yeah, so since meeting with, the Minister of, Labor and Immigration, we've had some discussions of, starting, a regional immigration program, just to fill our needs in the workforce. There's businesses in town that are already, they have their own, it would be the worker immigrant, program. And then, with immigrant services, we'll be starting up a position for a local immigration program that we'll be partnering with. And then there's gonna be a broader regional immigration program with, Snow Lake, Flin Flon and Swan River. That's because, there are lots of vacant positions in town and, we need a workforce to fill them. So we're looking to start that, in the new year.
I think you're good for another year.
I don't know,
There's a lot of work.
end of the day anyway.
Immigration Services, just sticking with that topic, they did a shout out on Facebook. Looking for people who can help them move from their current office space to their new office space. I don't believe there was a date or a time that was connected to that, but people could probably go to their office and, or make a phone call, help them out.
I reached out to them about that.
Oh, okay.
Friday and Saturday.
This weekend.
Okay,
Yeah, at the end of this month.
So anybody watching Friday, Saturday, got some extra time? Can help out? Alrighty, thanks a lot, Jonathan. Oh, sorry.
Sorry.
Yeah.
This master plan for Clearwater Lake, are you working with Parks Canada on this?
I've been in contact with them. There's been a few questions, concerns that we had to talk to them about. They do know about the, developments and then, some of the boundaries and some of the other amenities that, we want to include up there near the airport. There's some interest to partner with the park.
I'm majorly concerned about the water quality and keeping it clean at Clearwater Lake. How it is one of the clearest lakes in the world.
And it is designated as an environmentally sensitive area, so I think Parks Manitoba, they'll be on guard for that.
Oh, yeah. There is already a moratorium on, development at the lakefront. But yeah, further behind, away from the lake, there might be some concerns, but yeah, we've been working on
I think from what I've understood, one of the big concerns on the development will be the capacity.
Yeah, and again, that's whenever we get the opportunity to talk to the government about lagoon capacity. Instead of expanding their existing lagoon capacity, we should try to get them to shift over to the airport. Because they're not changing any of you'll always be hauling from the lake cottages. But if we can get an upgrade on a lagoon at the actual airport, where then potentially down the road, if we do an expansion with regards to water and sewer, thinking 10, 15, 20 years, you've got the infrastructure and tie in there without having to develop a lagoon.
They close that lagoon down, that was at the airport.
Yeah.
I don't, well, you never know until you ask, but I doubt if they'd open up another one right there.
The airport, the lagoon and the parks, we had discussions with their engineers about that to make sure that they included us.
Yeah.
In their design parameters for potential expansions.
Yeah.
In these areas as well as they would consider our capacity.
Yeah. Because if you really wanted to, if we were dreaming here and we wanted to have, we've got a bit of a campground, but we really wanted to put a housing development out there and expand it, not lakefront, but in the back there, or whether you have commercial, we're gonna need sewer and water collection, and water's probably easier to get, from groundwater. But, you're not gonna have an apartment building, seniors complex out there with, holding tanks. So,
How about with NAV Canada? Have they been involved at all? Any development near the airport needs to be also include them.
Yeah, I haven't been in too many discussions on the airport side, except for, there's anything to do with like cranes and lift
Yeah.
equipment, there's some regulations.
I know even the 2 permits that we issued in that area, NAVCAN had to be notified, even though they were just the hall and basically another month house, right? So I was just curious if NAVCAN had been involved.
well, I hope we have to get into all these discussions because we know something's going to move forward, so. Okay, thanks for that, Jonathan. If there's no other questions, we'll move over to the fire system guys.
Okay, so this year has been a pretty small year for capital projects. We've only got the 2. So the first one was the gear extractor. It arrived at the beginning of October. All the training's been done. It's in service. We've been using it for about a week now. The first one came with some cosmetic damage to it. It looked like a fork was dropped on it. The supplier didn't want it back, so we were allowed to keep it.
Wow,
So now we have 2 of these in service.
For free?
Yeah,
Right on.
we only paid for the one, so.
can't send the good one back, we get a big one.
So yeah, we have 2 of them, so $20,000 worth of gear extractors. We can do upwards of 8 sets of gear at once. So that'll expedite our cleaning process immensely. And then our other one is our SCBA's. They should be arriving in the next couple of weeks. We have to have fit testing for everybody completed as per workplace health and safety. Everybody has to be fit tested yearly, and once you change suppliers, you have to be fit tested to their mask, so that was included in the price. So those should be in service by early December, and we'll be good to go on using those.
Any others, things you're proud of in the department over the last while you want to share with, the community?
Our training, our guys have really stepped up on their training. I think last year, up from beginning of January 2023 until now, we've had 14 members go through different courses within the Emergency Services College. That's the 1001 standard for firefighting, inspector, hazmat, instructor, investigator. I think we have more training within our paid on calls than my department back home. As when it comes to certified pro board and IFSAC training,
Excellent.
and our guys are continuing on with that.
Excellent. Any further questions for the fire department? Okay, thank you very much. Keep up the good work, guys.
We have the grant match online. and
Okay.
She's just at the back.
Yeah.
Due to time difference, I would recommend that we allow her to do a presentation.
We can modify to do hers real quick. If anybody's got any objections.
Hi, Mika.
Not issues. Go. 2012. That's cool. I mean, go by time, no. I don't know what's going on with the slow tonight. Okay. Every time I open up a file, it just waits and waits.
That's your cool.
Right.
Right.
Hello?
Hi.
Hey, how are you? You see us here?
Yes, I do.
Nice.
Thank you for having me. Really appreciate being here.
Apologize for our little bit of a confusion. We kind of just broke you into our meeting because you were waiting. So I will pass it over to Bola to introduce and we can go from there.
Wonderful.
Yes, we have Michelle here from Grant Match. She'll be doing a presentation for us. And the purpose of this is for the company to help us to be able to search for grants available and be possibly to be able to help us to write some grants as well. So she's here today to share how the thing works with the organization with us.
Great.
Okay.
Back to you.
So yes, so just by way of a brief agenda, going to talk about how Grant Match are funding strategists rather than one-off grant writers and what that means to you in terms of ensuring you're capturing every dollar of government funding possible. How we do research, identification, and selection, which are equally as important as grant writing, and how our robust software is the foundation for that. And then I'll take you briefly through the whole process of why we are so successful with our clients for securing funding. Briefly touch on some of our partnerships and some success stories. I'm going to also touch on some funding highlights. I'm not going to go into detail on each of those funds. You can read that at your leisure, but it'll give you something a little bit more tangible to build some excitement around the possibilities for what we can do for you. And a little bit of a alert that as I go through this, keep in mind that all the deliverables I talked about with Grant Match are strictly success or performance fee based. So there are no upfront costs to you. So Grant Match has been around for over 25 years now, and we work with hundreds of municipal clients right across the country. We have about 10 in Manitoba, and Bola has those in her possession to reach out to. There's nothing more empowering than finding out about another's experience. Since our inception, we've recovered in excess of 300 million in recovered tax, which was an older practice, and government grants and incentives, the focus of today. There are over 45 of us in the organization, both technical writers, which is the majority of our staff, and business analysts. We are powered by big data and AI, which is our Grant Match platform, which you'll learn a little bit more about as I go through the presentation. And we pride ourselves on our relationships. So when we say delivered by real people, we customize and tailor to each organization's style, and that's what's made us so successful. Some like to be completely hands-off and have us do absolutely everything, including serving the information from the software. Some like to be, having multiple people in there several times a day. But we really get to know you so that we work best with how your organization works. So one of the reasons that we're so successful in maximizing grants for our clients is because we're by the time we identify and select a grant for you, we already know it's a high probability grant. So we're not wasting your time, our time, and we have the best chances of success. We do that through our in-depth knowledge of each fund. There are themes. I'm bringing some from last year that have continued on to this year, but some of these themes, and particularly the funds, are reoccurring. So we gain a lot of experience in that. We also have a real breadth and depth of experience in client projects. We write thousands of these applications and know what it takes to be successful, and those practices are replicated in each and every client we work with. We also have in-depth knowledge of the funding programs, each one of them individually. So we get to know a lot about the language. Our software pulls historical approvals so we can see what projects are being approved for what funds and geographies. And there's a culmination of all that information and talent for each and every application that we put forward for you. So really bringing you your best chances for success. So why pursue government funding? That might seem fairly obvious, but at any given time, there's about $50 billion in government programs across about 8,500 programs. So, you know, there's always room for improvement. It does achieve objectives for your local taxpayers. It keeps you ahead of failing infrastructure because you're always ahead of the curve. You're not scrambling at the last minute, finding out too late about a grant. You can accelerate disaster response, and it reduces budget commitments and loans. Now, the real grant match advantage is kind of a layered view or vision, if you will. There is some allocated funding out there. Obviously, you would continue to have access to that. You have your in-house grant team, and we're here really to augment what that is, not displace it. You know, even if we identify a grant that you weren't aware of, you might say, you know, for that one, we have the time and the expertise to work on that. You absolutely go ahead and do that, so that our true value, the grant match advantage, is incremental value, that to which you're not getting to because you don't have the time or the expertise. We find there's a lot more coming out in the grant landscape, which is good news, but it does make it harder and harder to get to them, and they are, many of them, exceedingly complex, involving, you know, for example, engineering firms and software to measure efficiencies and things of the like. So we not only have the awareness well in advance, we know before they even hit the market, if you will. We have the capacity, and we keep ourselves very nimble, so there's nothing we can't do for you. We have that expertise. You know, there are 45 of us in the organization. We bring combined hundreds of years of experience, and we culminate all of our experience to each and every application, and have all the preparation in advance, as well as very intricately managed on our platforms, so that even to the granular level of knowing who's working on what documents. So it's very, very streamlined and centralized.
If I could ask just a quick question.
Yes.
You're probably gonna cover this, but you mentioned, like, if you were to engage engineering firms, obviously there's gonna be a cost to that. How is that delivered, that cost, and the grant is not successful? Do you eat the cost?
No, actually, I'm glad you brought that up. As part of our taking on the entire risk, when an engineering firm is required that is specific to the grant, it is a requirement of the grant. For example, the Green and Inclusive Community Building Fund, we include the engineering costs for that in our risk. meaning the contingency fee. So there is no additional cost, and if we're not successful, you don't pay us and you don't pay for the engineering service.
Okay, I know you're gonna cover this too, but if I could ask another question. I noticed, point 3 on the funding, once funding is approved, the community would pay 75% of the approved grant. Say if it's $1 million, we pay 100,000. In your experience, has a government grant been approved and then for whatever reason, they rescind and, it's not approved?
That has never happened in our history, and we've been around for over 25 years now. It is a great question, and it doesn't mean it couldn't happen, but in the T's and C's of the contract, it indicates that if that was a government failed project, there would be no fees associated with that.
The community would be reimbursed, in other words, if we had paid their 75%.
Pardon?
The community would be reimbursed if we've already paid the 75%? Yeah,
That's
okay, thanks.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay, great. So thank you for those great questions. We do use a large amount of data, and I'm going to talk to exactly what the platform, just how robust it is, so that gives you that high confidence level of our abilities. We obviously gain a history of your capital budget, your vision, your wish list on an ongoing basis, analyzing that against eligibility and comparing to other approvals. And we were able, for that reason, to start early and prepare prerequisite planning documents. And as I hope to paint the picture throughout, being very strategic. And then we compile all the necessary documents for the submission. So really, if you wanted a marking point, about 90% of the work is going on in the background by us. Obviously, we need some information gathering from you, but that is kept at a strict minimum, and we're very streamlined in that. We wouldn't be around as long as we have been and as successful in as many organizations if we were just taking up a lot of your time. So because we're so strategic, oftentimes we're able to do stacking and pairing, and this is where we layer in more than one program to offset more of the costs of the project. In the stacking case, we may layer in a federal and a provincial grant. In the pairing case, these are complementary type grants, could be, infrastructure and socioeconomic or tourism, planning, etc. So we do cover the full gamut of grant world. Nothing is left unturned. The themes that we've seen last year, this year, and probably for at least 3 years before that were affordable housing, which has been a big push as of late, environmental, human capital, infrastructure, and culture, which can include socioeconomic, tourism, heritage, things of that nature. So here is the slide that shows you just what the foundation of our software looks like. Since our inception, we have searched over 380,000 companies and organizations, $3.3 trillion in government funding. The historical approvals that I mentioned are 1.14 million. And we're able to do that comparative analysis that brings so much intelligence to each and every one of our grants. And we're up at 8,500 programs that we search. What this really gives you a sense of is not only the power behind us, but that no matter what you're doing in government funding, there's always room for improvement. This is just a broad brush sampling of some of the municipalities that have allowed us to use their logo. But as I said, BOLA does have our list of Manitoba municipalities, and we're an open book. And I love working with the municipal sector, have been for almost 10 years, because especially you guys are so collaborative and always sharing best practices. And there, as I said, there's no greater power in that. This is just to lend more credibility to who we are as an organization, some of our partnerships, and our larger private sector clients. Now I'm going to talk about a few success stories. This is by way of, or for way of you seeing how strategic we can be in a municipal client we work with, but also just whet your appetite a bit for what are the possibilities for the PAW. So City of Kawartha Lakes is our longest standing municipal client. We did an affordable housing initiative with funding approval of $5 million. This was a loan through the Green Municipal Fund. We rarely do loans, but this is an example of a very big success story. It had an environmental component for carbon neutral, affordable housing, and an economical component as well that included downtown and community revitalization. The town of Warwick, this was a Canada Community Revitalization Fund. It was a building expansion, so we get just an absolute sweet spot for retrofits. It was for a community building for fitness and seniors, and also a revenue generating investment.
Were these in-kind grants, 50-50 grants, or just a grant?
Cash.
The community revitalization one was at 80%, I believe. We do find that the grants range varies by grant. They're usually between 50 and 80%. But you know, sometimes, as I mentioned, we're able to layer in more than one program offsetting the cost, so we can get, in that case, up to 100%.
Did he answer? Because it was, but we're talking, these are dollar amounts on here, like cash, not somebody's services in kind, right?
No, they're dollar amounts in cash. Yeah. Sorry, I might have misunderstood the question.
No, that's I might have misunderstood it.
Okay, great. I'm glad we're all on the same page. So this is an example in Drayton Valley, highlights and showcases a transportation fund. We do come across a lot in transportation. This was for an active transportation enhancement project and Safe Streets rehabilitation. This one I love talking about because the City of Estevan is, for a small city, this was a massive approval, and it was for something near and dear to everybody's heart, which is a recreation community center. We also had many approvals in the Green and Inclusive Community Building Fund. So this is just a nice example of how we play so well in that area. For the very first round of the Green and Inclusive, as an example, which is a similar initiative in the spirit of community building funds, I wanted to give the example that was 2.5 years ago that they first came out with that. In the first round of those, for the small and medium size up to $3 million, our success rate was 90% for approvals. So we have a lot of expertise in that. And in fact, that type of funding is the green and inclusive in particular, was the one where you have to purchase the REP software to measure efficiencies for your building. We purchased the software and we also supplied the engineering firm, all on a contingency base.
Is
Yeah.
is there any liability on, say, a community, if you've done all the legwork in this, you've got something approved and it's a federal grant for whatever dollars, and for whatever reason, the community cannot come up with matching dollars if that's required, and the community decides not to go forward with it. Where's the liability? Is there any liability back on the town for that? If we change our mind for whatever reason? Yes,
there is. And you do have to pay us. I will tell you, in our history, we've never had that happen, but it is something in our contract that we keep there because we want to have it understood that when you undertake this, that we're taking all the risk. So that is a component that we have to stay firm on, but we've never had to exercise it.
Okay, just thinking out loud, I was wondering about that because with any grant, if we're successful getting a grant, if all of a sudden you find a grant for us and it's something we need and we're approved in May, our budget for that year is done. So it kind of puts us in a bit of a spot if we don't have sufficient reserves to come up with our portion of it.
Well, and I think this is, just jump in, this is the important part for us to have a long-term plan that's fixed and real vision. And that we wouldn't just run off the seat of our pants on reserves. We need to know what we're going to look for in the next couple of years.
Have that money.
And have, well, and
At least availability.
have the availability for it, but this is, we don't want to apply for grants that we're not gonna do.
Yeah, and I thank you for that, all that input. I think that is the message that our clients have taken very seriously, in that in their own planning and strategy, that they're certainly not going to undertake applying for a grant with us unless they have all of that in their foresight.
Yeah. But I guess there's always that opportunity grant that comes up that we know that there's a, you know, for example, I'm not saying it would happen, but you know, there's a playground grant that all of a sudden comes up. We know we have money in our reserves that we could just chase that if we had the cash, right? And initiate that outside of our plan.
Yes. So, you know, I suppose, you know, I would take as a bigger marking point in that we've never had this happen, right?
Yeah.
So I feel, even maybe with conversations with other municipalities who have used us, you might get much more intelligence, certainly, than I could give you.
Yeah.
Just how they've refined that process so well. Yeah.
And the other question, while we're still talking about it, is there a minimum size grant that you would apply this to?
No. You know, obviously I'm showcasing the bigger ones, but to build the excitement. But one of the beauties of working with us is that tier of tens and 20s of thousands of dollars, like, you know, the Community Cultural Spaces program or something like that. Oftentimes, by the time municipalities get to everything they have to get to, that gets left many times. And we're there for that, because you not only have a single point of contact as your funding specialist, but you have a whole team of folks below that person. So we don't leave any stone unturned, that you give us your blessing to work on.
Mm-hmm.
Great. So this one here, thank you for the great questions, by the way. It just brings an opportunity to bring so much more to light. So this is a downtown and campground revitalization project for the town of Princeton, BC, for the Pacific Economic Development Canada. So again, you can just see the type of breadth and possibility the nice layering in of the strategy, even a socioeconomic component, going towards many aspects of revitalization, you know, the boardwalk, accessibility, and improved accessibility to public infrastructure. So, you know, oftentimes these being revenue generating aspects as well. Now, this section here, I want to be very respectful of your time. So I'm really just going to encourage you to take this information from Bola if you haven't already had a chance to review it. Go through it on your own. I'm certainly not going to go into each line of detail, but what it's meant to do is give you something a little more tangible, just to pique your senses for really the breadth that is possible in the areas of funding through some of the funds that we've seen. And then, you know, there'll be the granular detail for you there too. We see a lot in around energy and environmental. It's a great news story, but some of them are hard to get to. This one doesn't apply to you, so you can skip that. Yeah.
Go ahead. No, the Canadian Infrastructure Bank, how does that work when we're, like, I know you talked about a loan earlier, how, if we're going out and getting a loan, like, how do you get paid for that?
Well,
Based on
there
what we
is,
borrow?
yeah, there is a calculation. It happens in a very rare case, but there is a calculation that's done. You know, it's obviously not a percentage contingency.
Okay.
And because of your interest in just understanding what that will look like, when I follow up to the meeting with Bola and Jonathan, I will send you that quick calculation. It's very brief, but it comes in an example and it just shows you it's a portion of the interest.
Got a question here from one of our municipal superintendents.
Hi, thank you. Let's pretend that it's a significant capital project, you know, let's say $10 million. Are there parameters that we can say, like, you know, we're only interested in grants that are, you know, 50% plus, and that we need provincial and federal dollars in order to complete it? Are we allowed to put guardrails on what we're searching and looking for?
Absolutely. We have that, and that's a great question because, you know, sometimes in your own strategy, it only makes sense to have those kind of boundaries for a particular project, and we don't want to waste your time bringing you a whole bunch of odds and sods. So we simply enter that criteria that you give us into our analytics and pull forward only those ones for that project.
That's good.
Good. And just to follow up to that, so let's say we provide the parameters, we have to have provincial and federal dollars. So the provincial dollars get secured, but maybe the federal dollars haven't been secured. How does that work? Do we then we have to start paying at that point, like we owe a percentage, or how does?
So you would pay for the portion, you would pay us for the portion that you were awarded, right? But you wouldn't for the portion that wasn't. But you would have to factor that into your project budget, because then, you know, if the project goes forward, you'd be on the hook for that, right?
And then one last one. So a lot of these funding opportunities, they talk about project related costs being able to be captured as the grant. Are these fees a project related costs potentially?
I'm so glad you asked that because it means we got it out here. No, they are not. They are not allowed. Now, what I will say, and I have a follow-on to that, is the way our clients get their mind around budgeting for our fees is if we're doing our true value proposition, you're now getting 90% of hundreds of thousands of dollars or 95% a million that you weren't getting before.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, that's totally appropriate. Yeah. I was just hoping.
I know,
Okay.
I know. I'm so glad when somebody asks that question.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. Do we want to move ahead? How is everyone for time? Because you can certainly go through these on your own time. They're just examples of some of the different funding that's available.
No, I think we've got a lot of the information now, so I'm glad, thank you for calling in, and I know, I'm sure if we have anything, we'll direct it to Bola. I will ask the one last question though, when I just quickly skim the terms. So the term of the contract is 2 years, that's the minimum term?
It is, we asked that at the outset because these grants, as you know, take so long. And it
Yeah.
takes a long time for us to build up a strategic relationship for you to see through.
Okay,
But what you may not have had a chance to notice is that at any time, including in that first 2 years, within 30 days with written notice, you can terminate the contract.
perfect,
Okay.
thank you.
Well, thank you so much. It was my absolute honor and privilege to be here. And I wish you all the best with the rest of your meeting, and special thanks to Bola and Jonathan for allowing me to be here.
Well, thank you.
Bye now.
Okay. Let's take a quick break. I gotta take this, let's take a quick bathroom break, so it's not important, I'm not about to share this with you guys. Oh. Yeah. Yeah, so, thanks, residents, sorry for our people that may be watching. We just had to take a call, we got an emergent call from the RCMP. That there has been two prisoners escaped from the local correctional institute. They are on foot and they are in the supposedly grub box area. So if you are hearing this, please lock your doors, report anything that's suspicious, and we will let And the RCMP will keep us up to date on what's going on once we know more. We will also be sending something out on our Facebook page right now. Do you want to just go mute again one real quick? Let's move along here. So welcome back, everybody. Hopefully anybody that's watching live is, keep following social media for any updates on this emergency that's just arose in town that we just became aware of. We're gonna just jump back to management reports. So there's we've done the building permit, the museum, CDC, fire, the monthly management report. Anybody have, just one second, I got to take this one. Hello? Yeah, hi. or the mute. So what I'm gonna suggest that we call an adjournment to the meeting. We just got a call that they have to lock down the pool and the arena. There's alerts coming across the Environment Canada app now supposedly. That's what we just got an update from the RCMP. We've still got quite a bit of stuff on our agenda, so what I'm suggesting, we call an adjournment, we'll call a meeting for Wednesday, which will give us the notice to let people come and join. And we will send out a note for that. Hopefully earlier on Wednesday, we can get it done around 4 o'clock or something and 5 o'clock and go from there.
Motion to adjourn.
We have a schedule at 4 o'clock on Wednesday.
Yeah, right after that, I was thinking, yeah.
Sorry.
That sound good? So a motion to adjourn? Okay, good. Hey, everybody stay safe. We need to get the pool and the,
I've already reached out to Jerome, so Jerome is at the room, so they blocked the door there.
yeah. And they need to shut the pool down if it's open.